Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Welcome. This is the session 2 for problem solving of animal physiology course. And like last time, today also we will discuss questions. So I realized last time that we were doing a lot of discussions before the questions, which was giving us less time to discuss the question. Today I will do the other way. So I will give you just brief overview of what topics you would have covered in the week 2. And then from there, we will have these set of questions. And after each question, whichever question is I felt that requires more discussion, I've given a separate slide to this. Otherwise, in the question only you can discuss this topic, because you would have realized by now that this is a very vast syllabus, vast topic. I can't cover very great details, but I will try my level best as to cover as many topics as I can. This is for your revision, so I wanted it more to be a revision class and for you to have practice of those topics. Okay. All right. So I will begin. Right. So your week 2 was more about skeletal system, where you actually start with studying the physiological systems. And we started with integumentary system, which had 3 lectures. And then we had bones and cartilage, 2 lectures. Okay. So before I go into the questions, I will just maybe walk over the topics that you would have done, and then I will give you the questions for solving, right? So you would have started with skin and integumentary system, which is basically telling you your skin, how is it structured. So you would have looked at first into this kind of structure in your notes. Basically saying what are the layers that you find in skin. So you have epidermis, then you have dermis, then you have subcutaneous layer, and these have touch receptors, hair shafts, sweat glands. All of these topics was somewhere touched in the first session also, but you would have studied more in depth in this week, like, or in lecture 2. So then moving from a more simpler form to more complicated form, where you would have like read words like erector pili muscle, deep fascia, dermal papillae, papillary layer, reticular layer. So we'll do all of that today, right? You would have also seen a brief mention about functions of skin. So basically it's understandable, right? That what your skins do, your skin sense. So it is for sensory function. It does heat regulation by sweating. It does absorption, you know that, you protection, excretion, sebum, secretion, and vitamin D production. And you know how. We'll do, I think we have questions on that as well. If not, I'm sure you know this. Then from skin, you started by looking at each of these layers separately. We started with epidermis. We saw the 5 layers of epidermis that is there, and what are the different kind of cells which are present in each of these layers. Then we moved ahead, did the layers of dermis. We had papillary layer and we have reticular layer. And after moving on from skin, we moved to nail. So you had looked into nail anatomy. How is the nail extension taking place? What is the structure of nail? And similarly, you would have done for hair. So nail, hair, and skin were the first 3 lectures, right? And then we shifted our gears to bones and cartilage. We looked what is bone, what is cartilage, how are these two related, and how do they get formed, right? So these were the topics that we had done in lecture 2 or week 2. So without any more such theoretical discussion, let's start with questions so that you get more practice of type of question that will come from this part of your syllabus, right? Okay. So based on what you would have understood and read, let's try to attempt these questions. The first question says outermost layer of the epidermis is called whatever, which forms a waterproof barrier and that helps in preventing dehydration. Second question is hairs, nails, and glands including both sebaceous and sweat, they are classified as dash structures of the integumentary system. So what structures are these, right? And the skin helps regulate body temperature, prevents water loss, and plays a role in what synthesis when exposed to UV light. So give your 3 answers in the chat box. And as soon as we have some answers, we can go ahead with the discussions. So just once again, I will read out the questions just in case you are wondering. So the first question is about which layer of epidermis prevents dehydration. Second question is, other than skin, so you have glands, you have hairs and nail, what are these structures called? And third one is, when exposed to UV light, what all does the skin do? So it covers your functionality of the skin. If you're confused, you can just take a guess. We will anyway discuss the answers. Anybody? Okay, maybe you can attempt whatever you know. If you know one of these answers, you can type that answer as well. I will know where it is just fitting. So you can type that answer if you feel one of the answers is what you know. Okay, maybe I will go ahead with the answers so that we move on with the question. So the first layer is stratum corneum, or the first answer is stratum corneum. Second one, other than skin, all these glands are called accessory glands. And last one, when you are exposed to UV light, your skin helps regulate body temperature, prevents water loss, and synthesizes vitamin D, melanocytes, if you remember. Okay. Okay. Okay, these are easy questions that we have done previously. So first one is dash stored lipids attaches skin to deeper structures. So which of these stored lipid? And the second one is dash cover surface protects deeper tissues. So one protects deeper tissues and one is attaching the skin to the deeper tissue. Just to confirm, you can see my screen, right? And am I audible? You could type the answer also. It's not an issue. Can you hear me? Oh, it's working. Okay. All right. Yeah, I thought it's not audible. Okay. Yeah. So I've got one answer. Maybe we'll just wait for 1 minute more. See, the issue is I don't want you necessarily to answer. That's not the goal of this session. The goal of the session is to help you understand. I just needed to know that you are seeing the questions. Please do keep attempting whatever you feel like. In a sense, if you feel this question is easy for you, you're able to attempt, then it's okay. Even if you are not, try thinking for the question because I will be anyway discussing the answer. And if you don't type, no pressure. There's no pressure of typing. It's okay. I just wanted you to know that if I am audible and visible to you people. And if that's okay, then I can continue with the class. Right. I've got to receive one answer. So I have a lot of questions actually. And that's why I wanted to, like move ahead with the class. So I will wait for 1 minute or 2 minutes for each of the questions and I will then go ahead. Wherever you feel that you know the answer or you want to attempt, please go ahead, right? Okay, so let me go to the answer of this question. The first one is sweat glands. So we know that that stores lipids. And the second one is epidermis because that is just at the top, first layer, right? Again, easy questions. So the cutaneous layer of the skin includes which of the following? So where do you find the cutaneous layers? Okay. So the cutaneous layer is present in the epidermis, the first and the second layer, epidermis and dermis. Okay. Next, for first question on the slide, which skin component primarily absorbs UV radiation? So when I'm talking about UV, which of the skin component is important? And the next question is, which of the following cells are primarily found in stratum spinosum and plays a role in immune defense? Now, my key to you people is that this is why this subject is very descriptive. So each layer has been described and has been extensively discussed, right? So it's you should remember the layers in the order that they are and what cells do they have and what they function. Okay, so all these questions that you will see are mostly on where are they present, what are they doing. So you will often find these kind of questions even in your assignments and your exams, right? So I've got one answer. The other question is also there, and I will also wait for 1 more minute to move ahead. Because this is still skin. These are still some of the topics that we did discuss in the last class. We will be switching gears to bones, and then we will start with all the process of bone formation, different type of bones ossification. So it will get more technical and more detailed, but there definitely is it's all connected. So once you understand one system, it becomes very easy. All right, let me give you the answers for this, right? So the first one is melanin. I think everyone would know this because we have already, we all know about it already. The second one is Langerhans cells. And for people who were there in the last class, you would remember Langerhans and Merkel cells we had discussed last time. For people who were not there in the class, we had discussed what is Merkel's cell and Langerhans cells difference, and you would find this in the recording of the previous class, which is their link is shared with you, right? So do go for that for knowing the difference between these two cells. Of course, Langerhans cells, as the question says, they plays a role in the defense. And then you have melanocytes, which are for melanin secretion, and keratinocytes for keratin, right? And these are all part of skin. Okay, next one. This is what I was talking to you about, and this you should try to attempt, right? So the question is, which of the following is the correct order of epidermal layers? Remember the direction from innermost to outermost. So going from one direction to the other direction, and you should be aware of what is the order of your layer. This is very important, and this is what you should focus in this part. You can all try giving me answer in this chat box. Two and one. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let me show you this answer. Two, right? And sorry, you would have seen. So it's basal, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, corneum. So let me just go back to the slide where we had looked into the structure. I think structure will come anyway in the latest class, but just let me go back. Yes, basal, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, corneum, inner, outer. Cornea is the outermost, right? So one thing, the way you can remember the names is by giving a short, like abbreviation. So CLGSH, something like this, so that you don't forget it. In the order, you don't have to remember it. It can be a shortcut for you. You remember we give mnemonics to several things that we want to learn. So you can just try to remember it by CLGSH or CLGS, like something, right? So that you don't face this difficulty later. Okay. But yeah, coming to this question once again. So you had basal, so CLG, basal, so H or S and B, right? Now there is one term on this slide. How many of you understood this term here, thick skin? Okay, so let me show you this. So this is what is thick skin and this is what is thin skin. Thick skin is also called glabrous skin. Thin skin is called non-glabrous skin. Okay. Now, what are these? Thick, glabrous skin. They are basically present in your palms and soles, while all the other skin except for the palms and soles are thin skin. Now, what is thickened skin? Thick and thin skin. Anybody has any idea? Like, why are these difficult? They are different, of course, in a lot of terms. Do you know functionally how they are different? So what I told you is palms, basically this region, and soles, they have thick skin. So can you imagine what this part of your skin functionally would be doing, which is different from this part maybe? And that should tell you why is it thick and why all the other skin is thin skin. Okay, so let me tell you. So you see this and soles, they are the regions that face the most, mechanical friction or abrasion. So they are more prone to wear and tear, of course, because you work with them and you walk with these. So here in both this part, you have thick skins, you have glabrous skin, because these skin here, thick and glabrous skin, they are, they have less sensory receptor and they have greater protection. So they're more protected because of having less sensory receptors, and they are thick and they have more keratin. So that's because they are more in use, that or they are more prone to wear and tear. So they will have less sensory receptors, more protection. While for the other skin, which is this part or any other part, they have more of the sensitive receptors. So they're more sensitive and they're more flexible. So what is the difference of thick and thin? It's in terms of the thickness, of course, but why is it thin? Because it needs protection, and that's the difference between these two, right? And in this skin only, you will see these layers of organization. Okay. Okay, now more on layers of the skin. So first question, which layer of epidermis contains stem cell responsible for regenerating keratinocytes? So where do you see the regenerating keratinocytes? And the second one says stratum lucidum is present in which type of skin? Part of it is just what something we have discussed. So the second question should be easy. The first question is that you need to remember. So where do you see those regenerating keratinocytes? Remember, we discussed that there are regenerating keratinocytes in epidermis. So which layer exactly they are present? And the second question is drawn from the discussion that we had just had. 2A. Okay. 2A. Okay. Two, three. Okay. All right. We can move ahead. So the first one is stratum basale, and the third one is thick skin. I'll come to this. Just give me 1 minute. So the first one is asking, where do you see regenerating keratinocytes? It's here at the base. Okay. This one says which type of skin you have lucidum, and we just discussed here that in your thick skin you have all these layers. So the previous question itself said that you have all these 5 layers in thick skin. So that's what they're asking. In which type of skin do you see lucidum? So that's glabrous skin. Okay. Okay. So I'm moving between my two screens back and forth. So if you have any doubt, I might not see your raised hand. So please put it in the chat box in case you have any doubt or if something is not clear. While we go to the next question. So again, skin. So which type of sweat gland is associated with body odor and becomes active during puberty? So sweat glands we know, but what type of sweat glands? And what are the other words? Like, do you know the other words also? Three. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Two. Anyone else wants to go for the answers? Okay. Okay. Someone's typing. Okay. Two. So 3, 2, 2, and I'm expecting the others are also in process of thinking some answers. So let me give you that answer, which is apocrine. Okay. Now, it's okay if you haven't got the other one answer, but it's okay. I will explain all the terms in the slide first of all. First of all, the question is about sweat gland. Right? So sebaceous glands are different from sweat glands right away. So sebaceous glands are those glands that secrete oily substance called sebum. You will often see these oily secretions on your skin, right? That's sebum. So sebaceous glands produce this sebum, which basically helps in your lubrication and protection of skin. They protect the skin from drying out. So that's why that's layer coating. Okay. And sweat glands in general, they are producing sweat we know, right? This is for your body regulation, body temperature regulation. So inherently these two glands are different, right? So your odor and your the odor comes from sweat, and this gets activated during puberty. Sebaceous gland is for the sebum secretion. What are the other terms? So first of all, lacrimal glands is for tears, and that's present here in your eyes, like just above your eye top, like eye layer, and these are responsible for tears. Okay. Now sweat glands are of two types, apocrine and merocrine, and the question here was associated with this. So first of all, let us understand what's apocrine and what's merocrine. So apocrine are sweat glands which are associated with hair and are found in certain places of the body. Okay, while merocrine are found throughout the body. Okay, talking about activity, these apocrines are the ones that start at puberty, while the merocrine, which is found throughout the body, its activities is since you are born. So merocrine is since the beginning. Apocrine starts later in your during adolescence, and they both secrete similar kind of compounds, water and salt and organic compounds. The basic difference is where they are present, mostly in the hair component, and that's exactly why you have body odor and gets activated later in stage. That's apocrine. Okay. All right. Next question. Following feature is true of see the question, see which one. The question is about what they connect and what do they have. So which one's relating more, which one's relates to reticular and it's not characteristic of papillary dermis. Three. Okay. Anyone else? Three. Okay. All right. Let me give you the answer. Three, which is correctly pointed out by people here. So basically, so remember I showed you two images. I mean, an image of two layers, papillary layer and reticular layer. And in the image, you had papillary layer on the top and reticular layer at the bottom. So this reticular layer contains your connective tissues and collagen fibers. So the difference between papillary and reticular is that papillary, which is at the top, is a thin layer. This reticular layer is a thick layer. You already know composition wise that reticular consists of collagen fibers and connective tissues. In papillary dermis, you have this dermal papillae, capillaries, sensory neurons, and lymphatic system, right? So the composition is also different and even the functionality difference. Now, because of the presence of collagen fiber, reticular layer gives a strength and flexibility to the skin. So your skin is flexible, your skin is you're strong. It's because of this layer, reticular layer. While the papillary dermis is responsible for nourishment of epidermis. We did a question last time, if you remember, where I had asked, how does the epidermis get its nourishment, right? And that's from this layer, this papillary layer, which is just beneath or just intermixed into the epidermis because it's at the top. right? So you have epidermis and dermis. In dermis also, the top layer is your papillary layer, which is interspersed into the epidermis. And that's why this gives the nourishment to the epidermis. Okay, because we remember epidermis is avascular. It doesn't have its own blood vessels and nourishments. Okay. Right, next one. Now, shifting our gear from skin to the accessory structure here, right? The first question is, which sequence correctly describes a layer of hair shafts? So basically, if you pull your hair, if you see your hair structure, how do you see the layers arranged from innermost to outermost? Be mindful of the direction. Second one says, which part of the hair contains actively dividing cells responsible for hair growth? So where do you actually start have those cells which is responsible for increasing the length of your hair? Anyone? No? Any guesses? Okay, so the answer is medulla cortex cuticle and hair bulb. So this is where you can see all the answers. Okay. So let us first look into the layers of the hair. So what the question was, from the innermost to the outermost. So you have a medulla, surrounding it you have cortex, and surrounding it you have cuticle. So medulla, cortex, cuticle, right? So this covers your this answer. Now here, the question says which part of your hair, which is basically this hair, which is coming out of your skin, contains your cells which is responsible for hair growth. So basically dividing cells, these cells divide and the hair increases in length. And that's at the base, which is hair bulb, which is here, if you see, right? The remaining, like the terminologies refer to different parts of these hair. So hair shaft is this skin part which is not protruding. Here, papilla are here at the bottom, right? These are the papillary, blood capillaries and the nerve endings. So this papilla is there. And the cortex is the secondary layer, right? So all these terms have their own placements and their own meaning. Okay, next part. Now, like I said, we will be switching from hair to nails and then from bones and cartilage. So this is one of those cartilage questions. So, what is the matrix of cartilage mostly composed of? Anybody? No? Okay, no worries. So the answer to this is polysaccharide of chondroitin sulfate. This is how your cartilage is. So you know where cartilage is, right? So this cartilage here, let's say between the two joints, you will often see this chondroitin sulfate being present there. So these are basically these GAGs, which are called glycosaminoglycans. So this cartilage matrix is rich in these GAGs, and these bind to different proteins, right? So these are glycans, so they bind to different proteins, and then they form something called proteoglycans. And because there is this proteoglycan, cartilage is very soft and very firm. So they have the cartilage gets its firmness and gel-like consistency because of these proteoglycans. Okay, but the other terms, which are heparin sulfate proteoglycan, hyaluron, and heparin, so these are present in other parts of the like cells. So for example, heparin sulfate here, these are present in the basement membrane and mast cells, if you know. So this is present in basement membrane, which is, if you know the cell structure, if you ever see cell structure, you will know basement membrane is at the bottom. It's present there. Heparin, if you know, they are responsible for alert. They're responsible in cells which take part in allergic reactions, mast cells. So they are present there. And hyaluron or hyaluronic acid, they are also aggregation of proteoglycans, but they are so they are not majorly present in the matrix. So in the matrix of cartilage, you find chondroitin sulfate. Okay. Okay. Now this is a very important question. This talks about the type of cartilage. Once you answer this question, then we will see the types of cartilage that are there. So try to attempt this question. Try to identify which type of cartilage we are talking about. The next slide defines these cartilages. The first one is, which cartilage type contains the highest amount of elastic fibers and provides flexible support to structures like the ear. So which one is present in ears? Second one is, which kind of cartilage is found in embryonic skeleton? So there are two distinct locations. So you need to tell me which type of cartilage is found in each of these different regions. Take a guess, because these are the very type of question that you would encounter. Feel free to type your answers. Even if they're wrong, it's okay. This just serves as a reminder or a recap for you. Okay. Okay. So we have got answers for the first question. Take your attempt at the second question as well. Because you've already identified one type of cartilage. Try to identify the other one. Two. Okay. One more minute and then we look into the answers. Keep taking your, keep thinking which could it be, or try to remember the classification also of what are the different type of cartilage this is there. Okay. So second and second, those who answered, they got it absolutely right. So the first one talks about the type of cartilage you have in ear, which is elastic cartilage. And the second one talks about the cartilage that you have in embryonic skeleton, you have hyaline. So I told you. So broadly, you have these three kind of cartilage: elastic cartilage, hyaline cartilage, and fibrous cartilage. And if you just look into the cartilage structure, you will start seeing the differences, how they are packed, how numerous cells they have. The first one says is elastic cartilage. So where all do you find them? You find them in the ears, you find them in the epiglottis, you find them in the auditory tube, cuneiform cartilage of larynx. So all these locations have elastic cartilage, and you can see where the chondrocytes are and how much elastic fibers are present in the matrix of these cartilage. While when you come to hyaline cartilage, they are found in the tips of ribs, which is here, right, and bones of sternum. Sternum is this chest part. Or you also have them in synovial joints, which is basically in the knee or in the knee joints. Then they are the support, they're the one that's supporting the larynx. They are in trachea, they are in bronchi. So you will always, you would have heard also hyaline damage, hyaline cartilage. So they are present in these locations. And you can see that the chondrocytes are attached to each other. They form a stack, and you will see less of elastic fibers in these, right? And the last one is fibrous cartilage, which you will find in within the knee joints and in your pubic bones of your pelvis, right? So here in this region, right? And you can see that you have collagen fiber in the matrix. So these are elastic fibers, these are collagen fibers. So they are fibrous because of the presence of collagen. So these are the three type of cartilages that you see in your body. Okay. Right. Now let's move on to next type of questions that you will also encounter in this part. So a lot of names on the slides, and let's try to see which ones are what. The questions are, which one of the following is a major cell type which is found in cartilage, and they're responsible for secreting the matrix. So matrix is basically the surrounding surface. So which of these cells do that? And the next one is fibroblasts are primarily responsible for producing what? Which of these is produced by fibroblast? So a lot of cells name, lot of deep. So basically in this, like I said in the beginning, only lot of technical questions you will have, lot of names you will have. So you need to remember their location, you need to remember their function, structure. So the more you practice kind of questions, the more you will get a grasp on this, like topics. Okay, nice. So you have 2 and 3 and 3 and 3. All right. Three. Okay. Anyone else wants to attempt? 3 and 3. Okay. Okay, let me show you the answer. 3 and 3. Okay, let's do it first. So we are talking about which is the cell type which is found in cartilage, which produces or secretes the responsible for the matrix, right? So those are chondrocytes. And what do they do? How are they helping in secreting for the matrix? So they are basically secreting the collagen fibers and the proteoglycans like the chondroitin sulfate that we have just read, right? So the name chondroitin sulfate says the name of the cell it comes from, chondrocytes. So chondrocytes are responsible for the production of those chondroitin sulfates as well as collagen fibers which make up the matrix that we have just seen in the previous slide. What are the other cells doing? So this one, osteocytes, these are basically mature bone cells that we will encounter in the coming slides. This word, which also comes up in a later part, fibroblast. These fibroblasts are basically, they produce fibers in the connective tissue, which is exactly what you have picked up here, collagen, right? So fibroblast, and the name you can take from the name that these are responsible for secreting fiber, fibroblast or fibroblast, and fibers are collagen. This also we have seen in cartilage right now, right? And this term here, osteoclast, these are basically for the breaking down of bone matrix. So they are basically not making, but they are breaking down the bone matrix. So osteoclast, right? Now fibroblast, the answer I already told you here. It is for the collagen secretion. While the other terms that you have just seen, it's also, like I mentioned, it's for your fibers. So you don't just have collagen, you have elastin, you have reticular fibers. So all of these fibers are from these cells, right? While you see myelin, this myelin is produced by, they are more associated with nervous system. So they are produced by dendrocytes and squamous cells that you will discuss or you will encounter in nervous system. Cartilage matrix is again from this question, so it's from chondrocytes. And red blood cells, if you remember, they are for hematopoietic stem cells in the blood marrow. So yeah, sorry, bone marrow. So if you remember that, you would have known here that this is not the correct answer. This looks like very heavy in the beginning. If you are not able to recollect, don't be stressed. The more you attempt, the more you read, you should be able to do it fine. So that's why I'm trying to give you all these different questions just for your revision, so that even when you are revising for your exam, you come back to these questions and the recording is available so you can check with that. Right, next question. Which connective tissue layer surrounds cartilage? So around cartilage, which layer you have? And that layer contains these fibroblasts that we have just discussed. Two, two. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Quickly. So the answer is pericardium, perichondrium. So that's the layer that surrounds cartilage. Okay. All right. Now this, so we move from cartilage now to the next part, which is bone, right? So you have, so for osseous tissues or for bones, you have two type of bones, compact bone and spongy bone, dense bone and compact bone, spongy bone and cancellous bone. Which one are the correct option? Which one is the correct option? Which type of bones do you actually have? Easy, come on, we can do this very quickly. look at the combinations and then try to identify if they are two different words or same words. Okay, one response. Anyone else wants to go? Okay, anyone else? See the terms. Can you identify what terms these are? Okay, no worries. Let me quickly show you the answer. One, right? Most people said. Let's see what these bones actually look like. So this is your spongy bone and compact bone together, right? So what is spongy bones? Spongy bones, or they're also called cancellous or trabecular bone. These are long bones. So it's found in the long bones, and it is surrounded by compact bone. So see, this is your spongy bone, and this is covered by these compact bones. So their covering is the compact bone, and the compact bones are also called the cortical bone, and basically their role is to surround the spongy bone, and because they are surrounding, they are heavy, they are tough, they are compact in nature, while the spongy, as the name suggests, they are inside, so they are not that how do you say, sturdy, right? Now in the options you had dense bone and compact bone. There is no term called dense bone. You know, bone density is there, but there is nothing called dense bone, right? The other option, which says spongy bone or cancellous bone, they're basically the same thing. So that's not the type, right? So that's why the first answer, compact bone, the outside bone, and the spongy bone, which is present inside. Okay. All right. Next one. Uh, these are all type of bone marrow questions. So one slide tackles all the different topics. So the bones of the, so they have, so this is first, this is second, and this is third. So the bones of skeleton store energy reserves as lipid. Where do they store lipid? Second one, hematopoiesis. That is something I have just mentioned. And the third one is, which is the site of blood cell production. Which one do you think is the answer? Go ahead, please attempt, everyone. Will give you, basically this covers all the bone marrow that can be possible to discuss. Okay. So I'm guessing this is what you are meaning by one. This is your two, and this is your three, so that all of us are on the same page. So one, two, and three. Yeah, we can wait for 2 minutes here. So because it's three questions together. So yeah, take your time, and then we move ahead. 1, 3, 2, 3. Okay. One more minute and then I discuss the answers. No? Anyone? Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead. Okay. Okay. And it's anyway 1 minute over. So the answers, let me just show you the answer first. 2, 3, and 3. I hope that's what you answered. If not, it's okay. The first one says, which bone or skeleton store energy reserves as lipid, which is yellow marrow. The name itself suggests that it's for lipid, yellow. The next one says blood cells. Again, the name suggests red bone marrow. And blood, so you can associate it in this way. So if you see among the bone marrow, which one is for what? You can go by the color. The color is the giveaway of what kind of cells they produce, right? Okay. Next. Now, we have discussed about bone marrow. Now, outside bone marrow, which is the matrix again. We have cartilage matrix. We have bone matrix. So the first question is, this is for your, this is from previous year's assignment and previous year's exams. So the first one is the crystalline salt in organic matrix of bone is called for what? Second one, the ground substance gelatinous medium in bones contains. So the same, so you have ground substance, what does it contain of? And the third one, the remainder bone, which is other than the matrix, is what? So what is the bone made up of? You have matrix and what? Again, it's 3 questions, so we can wait for 2-3 minutes and then we will go move ahead. So all of these questions that they are, you can see they are aimed at making you aware of the structure of the terminologies. So if you can't attempt, or if you're getting confused, don't get overwhelmed. You will anyway be revising it if you're giving exams, so you can use this as a mind map that time. Okay. One more minute. Yeah, one more minute and then we can go ahead. Okay, so let me give you the answers. Yeah, and you can try and tally if you were thinking in the correct direction. Yes, it does seem a very, like complicated question, but that's okay. That's on your slide here for your revision. So you note down that these kind of questions are prevalent in this subject's question paper. So be mindful when you are reading these topics, right? The first question is crystalline salt in the organic matrix of bone is saltpeter. The ground substance, which is other than the matrix, so other than the matrix, you have ground substance. So that's the gelatinous medium, and it contains a hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate again. Okay. And the third one says, so the ground substance and organic matrix, they make up the bone. So basically, these two were giving you the answer. What does it, what am I trying to get at? Right? Okay. Don't get overwhelmed. We have more questions. It's take your time, focus, and try to understand. Okay. So you know these terms, right? You have bones, you have cartilage, you have tendons, and you have ligaments. So which of these four are the ones that harness force of contraction to perform specific tasks? So which of these are using contractions for tasks? And where are they present? If you know the location of each of these terms, this question will be easier for you to attempt. Where is ligament and where is tendon? Where do you see these type of joints or type of muscle skeletal system? Okay. C. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the answer. Absolutely correct. Tendons, also called aponeurosis. So just for a quick reminder, tendons are basically muscles. Basically, they're helping in attaching muscles to the bone. And ligaments are between bone and bone. So we know which one requires more contraction, muscles. And that's why tendons. That's how you join and you answer. Good job. And it's okay if others were thinking this correct direction. Okay, now we come to the last topic of this week and this class today. The theme is bone growth, right? And we have studied several kinds of growth. So let me not confuse you by telling all the names right here. Let's try to attempt an answer and then deal each of these one by one. But all the terms I will focus on so that you get a recap of all these different processes. Right. The first one here says, in which growth pattern do cartilage cells divide and expand within the matrix and increasing the cartilage from within? So this is cartilage. You have the division inside. And the next one is which growth process involves adding new layers to the surface of the bones or cartilage. So one is growing internally, one is going from the surface. So which is the term that defines these two processes, or what are the terms that define respective processes? Very important questions, very important topic. I think the whole idea of these course is for you to know these processes to be able to recognize them later. So you should know these processes definitely. As you would have seen in the lectures, Professor keeps mentioning the agenda of these course is so that you understand the processes that takes part in your body. So these are very important topic and it's a very common topic. Bone growth, cartilage growth. So how do they happen? And there are different ways of those as well. Okay, 1:2. Second one. Okay. Okay, so 2 and 3, 3. Okay. Two and 4. Okay. Anyone else wants to have any other options? Okay, let me tell you the answers and then we go back. 2 and, sorry, 3 and 3. I remember people answering. Okay, no worries. Yes, very confusing term. All look like the same. So more impetus for you to remember each of these words carefully. So let's for now deal with the two terms that we should deal right now, right? So the first one is interstitial growth and the second one is apositional growth. Let's try to see what these two terms are, right? So interstitial growth, which is basically inter. The word inter should tell you that these refer to growth from within the tissue. See the question again. The question said cartilage cells divide and expand within the matrix. So within means inside, anything which is from inside, and interstitial has the word interstitial, which basically means within, interspersed. So this should give you a hint of what do they refer to. So interstitial growths are basically growth from within the tissue. And how do they divide? The chondrocytes, they divide within the lacuna and then they secrete the matrix. So you see here, you have the chondrocyte, which is within the lacuna, and they start to divide into, so they are breaking down into two cells, and as they are breaking down, because they are also expanding, the cartilage is also expanding, so because of the division inside, right? And this interstitial growth mainly happens in cartilage, right? And because they are dividing from between, just imagine this process. You have a layer, let's say like this. You have one cell which is now dividing into two. It requires more space, so the cartilage also increases. So it increases the cartilage volume or length. And you would see that it is important for long bone growth, right? Which is the epiphyseal plates. You will see they are important there. And you will see these kind of expansion in fetal skeleton, because that is when you require these kind of divisions, right? So interstitial, the word says inter means from within. That's it. That's how you can remember it. Now the next word, apositional growth. Now apositional growth means by adding new layers to the surface. Let's just go back to the question first so that you understand it. It said involves adding new layers to the surface of the bones of the cartilage. This is exclusively cartilage. Now this can be in bone or cartilage. You are basically adding new layers. So what does the word aposition otherwise means? Aposition, nearby or over each other. That's exactly what we are trying to say, right? You have these new layers which is on top of the previous layer. That's it. So that's how you remember aposition, nearby to each other, right? So you are in this kind of growth, you are basically adding new layers to the surface. And here you have these perichondrial cells, which is from the perichondrium. So those cells, they are added externally. So you have these cells which are added onto the existing layers, right? So you have both in cartilage and bone. And what would they do? So if you are, so let's say this is the surface and you are adding bones here, it's not increasing like this, right? It is increasing like this. So you have an increase in thickness. Remember, the other one had increase in length. This one has increase in thickness, right? And easier to understand because it's being added on top of or onto the additional surface, onto the existing surface. So you are increasing the width here, right? And you would see this in like when you are exercising, or when during childhood your bone has to thicken, it has to grow. This is how it will grow. So the other one here is fetal. This is during the other stages of your life, right? So easy. How do you remember? Just from the word interstitial, from within, appositional, on top of each other or over the other one. Okay. All right. Next one. Next types. So the first one says, what is the name of the process in which bones form from cartilage template? And the next one says the other type, which is endochondral ossification. Uh, so you are replacing cartilage to form bone. What is replacing? So these questions are connected, of course. So one questions the process, the other questions the mechanism. So go for it, and then we'll come back and discuss. Two. Yeah, two. And how does this happen? What does actually take over? Hmm. 2, 3. Okay, let me show you because we have to discuss. First, this answer was clear because that's I told you are connected. But so the difference here is the previous ossification or previous growth, we had apositional growth where cells were coming and attaching on the surface. The other one we had interstitial, so you had cells dividing and increasing the length. Now you have bone formation, and the process of bone formation where you have this is cartilage. This cartilage is replaced by bone. That's called endochondral ossification, right? And what is exactly replacing cartilage to form a bone? You have a bone matrix which is coming from the osteoblast. We'll do this easily. Don't panic or don't take stress. So endochondral ossification, these are few steps that you need to remember. So let's begin. So basically, first of all, very important, endochondral means that you have a bone which is forming by replacing a cartilage model. So the cartilage is there and it is giving a print of how the bone should be. So your cartilage here tells you this is how your bone should be. And your bone comes and takes this imprint and ossifies or hardens, right? And there are steps to it. There are several important steps that is followed for these bones to form. The first thing is your cartilage model formation. So you have a hyaline cartilage. This is the hyaline cartilage, right? And so this develops, this is the model of the future bone. Okay, this is how you should be. And it develops from mesenchymal cells. Okay, so the mesenchymal cells, they give rise to different kind of cell. One of this is this cartilage model, right? Now what happens next? So your cartilage, uh, basically you have cartilage have chondrocytes. So these chondrocytes now they are increasing, dividing, increasing, and the matrix calcifies, so becomes stronger. And over the period of time, your chondrocyte, which is a cell, they die due to lack of nutrients. So you start having these holes because your cells which are form part of your cartilage, they start dying out. So you have this cavitation. So you have this cavity formation, right? Now, because there is a cavity, what happens is this cavity is that you have blood vessels which come inside and join, right? So you have invasion of internal cavities by periosteal blood and spongy blood formation. So basically, very easily, you have basically blood vessels which invade, and they are taking up on this calcified surface. So first you start with hyaline. Hyaline cells die, blood vessels come. Okay. Now, what do these blood vessels do? They start ossifying this part, right? So the osteoblasts, which is exactly the question, what the question said. So your osteoblasts will now come and start forming the bone matrix. So you have formation of medullary cavity. So blood vessels came, with that came osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are meant to secrete bone matrix, so they may form this matrix. So you have this matrix formation, and then when it is secreting those matrix over the time, these epiphyses, they will start ossifying and they will complete this whole segment. Whatever cavity was left behind, they will now start getting ossified and the bone matrix will take over. So you had hyaline cartilage dies, bone matrix takes over. That's it. That's your formation of bone. And I've explained it in very simple terms. You need to remember the key terminologies, but for your remembering, you can remember it like this. So how do you remember it? Endochondral, you can remember it from this way. Endo means like at the side. Ecto means outside, right? So endo means inside. So inside, and chondral. Chondral means the chondrocytes role. So you can remember that, and from internally, chondrocytes start moving out, they die off, and the new or the osteoblasts come in. So you can remember it like this. Okay. And where do you find these? These you find in your long bones. What are long bones? Femur, tibia, humerus. Humerus is here, you know this. Femur, tibia, fibula, you know these also. So these bones are formed because of these kind of ossification process. Okay. And I guess the last one here. Yeah. Right. So which one of the following process describe bone? So remember here, we had a cartilage from where your bone is forming. This one says which in process involves bone formation directly from the mesenchymal tissue, no cartilage step. And the second one asks you which type of ossification begins with a mesenchymal membrane and forms flat bones like those of skulls. So basically the same question again, but get me the term and then I'll explain you what's exactly happening. Do you identify the terms? Which type of ossification am I talking about here? So we already discussed endochondral. We know it's not that. We know apposition is not correct. But out of this intramembranous and epiphyseal, which one is correct? And here too, intramembranous and secondary ossification. So which one is correct? Okay. Let me give you the term. So the term is intramembranous ossification, and that's the fourth type of term that you need to remember. The second type of ossification. First endochondral. Second one is intermembranous, and this is what is intramembranous. In very simple term, in the previous one, you have a hyaline cartilage, which is saying, okay, this is the shape of the bone, and then it dies, and then your bones take over. In this, there is no cartilage step in between. Why in between? Because remember, in even the cartilage step or the cartilage stage, before that, you had the mesenchymal cell differentiation, which were basically what taking place in the cavitation formation and all these formation. So you have mesenchymal, and then you have cartilage, and then you have bone. In this one, in this type, intermembranous, you don't have that cartilage. You directly have mesenchymal cells to bones. And that's why the type of differentiation here becomes, the steps here are different. So basically here, first of all, you have these mesenchymal cells, which will group together in the membrane. So remember, fibrous membrane is where your clustering will take place. And then you have the differentiation of these cells into osteoblast. Osteoblast are what secretes these matrix. So your mesenchymal cells will first condense, and then they will have the osteoblast coming and sitting on the mesenchymal surface. And then once that happens, because it is secreting a matrix, it will secrete matrix, there will be innervation of blood vessels, and after overall there will be formation of the compact bone, spongy and then compact bone. We know that both. First you have the spongy bone, which is covered by the compact bone. So basically these cells come together, and then they secrete these so mesenchymal cells, and then osteoblast, and once osteoblast comes, you have the secretion of matrix, and when matrix is formed, you have blood vessels coming and formation of spongy and compact bone. The key to remember how this happens, and what is the terminology saying? Intramembranous. So membrane word is associated with mesenchymals, which are present in the membrane, and it is this whole step begins and takes place in the membrane, so it is intramembranous ossification. So two type of bone formation, you have intramembranous and endochondral. Two types of growth patterns you see, apositional and interstitial. Remember these four terms. These are the biggest takeaways from this lecture today also. All right, and just to end it with few more terminologies that you will keep encountering in this course. So if you have the words osteoblast and chondroblast. The name suggests what they give rise to. Osteoblast is basically bone matrix. Chondroblast is for the chondrocytes, which is basically cartilage. But where do these cells come from? We know this answer. We have just discussed it, and it should be easy for you to guess it. People? Anybody? No? Okay. Because I have to finish. Mesenchymal cells, and that is what we have been discussing so far. So we have used the word osteoblast, osteoclast. Clast and blast, what is the difference between them, right? So you have which type of bone cell is responsible for laying down new bone matrix, and then you have osteoclast, and you want to know the function of osteoclast. I will wait 1 minute here and then move ahead. We have been discussing osteoblast so far, so that should be easy. What is osteoclast? Well, I guess that our brain has got fuzzed. No worry. Let me give you the answer for this. So we have been discussing matrix, and that is because of osteoblast. And osteoclast, if you remember at the beginning only, I told you they are for the breakdown of bones. They are for resorption. And again, you have few matches here. So you have progenitor, osteoblast, osteocyte, and osteoclast. And you need to give me the correct match. I'm sorry because I see no answers. Is my screen visible? Are you people able to see the slides? Um, am I audible? Yeah, okay. Sure, sure. Sorry, sorry. Right. So three. So the only correct option here is this osteocyte, which is basically mature bone cell embedded in the matrix. Osteoblast and clast are reversed. What is osteoprogenitor? They are not for bone matrix. They are basically the stem cells, like stem-like cells, and these also give rise to osteoblast. So progenitor, as the name suggests, right? All right, that brings us to the end of the type of questions where we had all these descriptions. Uh, we will end these class with some assertion reasons questions. These are simply for your revision and no stress here at all. Yeah, I will try to cover as quickly as possible, and maybe 1 minute to each slide should make us like they should be done. Okay, so your assertion reason, if someone was not there in the previous class, is basically this type of questions basically mean that your first your statement and your second statement should be connected with each other. So you have a statement, and the reason of the statement is on the second statement which is given to you. And are these two correct? And are these two properly explaining the previous one? Is what the question tries to ask you. So here the first statement is the skin functions as sensory organ, and the reason for this is because it contains nerve endings that detect touch, pressure, and pain. So are these two statements correct and they are related? Four. One, okay. One and four. Okay, fine. Let me give you the answer for this. It's one. So four means A is false. A is not false. Would you like to just quickly remember the type of sense organs that you have? Ears, nose, eyes, tongue, and skin. So skin is a sensory organ, and they are sensory because they have these nerve endings that can detect touch and pain and pressure. Okay. Next one. The stratum granulosum contains cells that begin to die and flatten. And the second statement says these cells, they accumulate keratohyalin granules and begin losing nuclei. So which one do you think? Any guess over which one could be? What could be the answer for this? Yeah, so my suggestion would be that try to remember these different layers of epidermis because they have specific functions. So you say one. Anyone else has any options, other answers to give? Or no? Okay. All right. So the answer here is one, which is basically though both of them are correct and they are correct explanation of each other. So your stratum granulosum do have cells that begin to die, and they die because they have keratohyalin granules. So they accumulate these and they start losing nuclei. And so they die and they flatten out. And that's your granulosum layer, which is flattened. Okay, next one. So you have seen this one was granulosum. So you have the strata of corneum. These consist of live keratinocytes that provide waterproofing. And this is because this layer is the outermost skin of part of the skin, and they contain fully keratinized cells. Anyone? Any answer? Any guesses? Okay, someone says one. No answers, no more. Okay, no worries. Okay, yes, I see someone typing. Two. Okay. So one and two, which is basically saying that both of them are correct, but they are not the correct explanation. That's incorrect. The answer is three, which means the first one is false. The first statement says that stratum corneum consists of live keratinocytes, which is incorrect. Stratum corneum consists of dead, fully keratinized. This is correct. And fully keratinized means they are dead cells. So that's the correct answer. Right? So try to remember your layers, they are important. Okay. We did hair. We haven't done nails, so this is one question for nail. So nails grow from nail matrix located beneath the cuticle. And the reason for that is the nail plate is produced by rapidly dividing epithelial cells. What do you think? Is this correct or incorrect? Anybody would like to take a guess? This is about nails. Two. Anyone else? Okay. So the answer is first. They are both correct, and one is the explanation of the other. So if you see, this first statement says nail grow from nail matrix located beneath, and they grow because of the epithelial cells. So that's why they are connected. All right. Okay. Next one. Apositional growth, bone growth that we now know is increasing the bone's diameter. Second, the reason for this is it involves new bone tissue being added by osteoclast to the periosteal surface. Are these both statements correct? And we have discussed this, so this should be easy for you to answer. Okay, anyone else? We've discussed this topic today. I'll wait. Yeah, 10 seconds. Okay. Okay, so the answer is A. We discussed this, right? Apositional means one on the surface of the other. So your apositional therefore will increase the bone's diameter because it is increasing the thickness, its diameter which is increasing, and that is because you have these new cells onto the surface of the previous one. Okay, right. Next one, quickly. The subcutaneous layer of the skin contains fat deposits, and these fat deposits serve as insulation and energy reserve. I think this is very easy. I mean, this is something that we shouldn't even like think twice about because this is very easy. Okay. So 10 more seconds and then we see the answer. Someone has mentioned 1. Okay. Yes, let's see this 1. I think that's what I said, that this is something that we already know about. You have subcutaneous layer which has fat deposits, and then fats are responsible for insulation and energy reserves. Okay. This is something that you would have read about Caucasian race in this lecture, something related to this. So people with more active melanocytes tend to tan more easily, and that's because UV radiation stimulate melanocyte activity and melanin production. The first few questions that we have done. Something also related similarly to your Caucasian races. And we are almost done. We have few more slides remaining, and that we should be able to do. 1. Yeah. Anyone else? So if you are able to answer this, you will also know why Caucasian races have less of melanin secretions and less of Or on the contrary, why do they have fairer skin? Yes, one. Someone has mentioned one. Anyone else? Okay. One is the correct answer, because this is something that we will hear, uh, like in common days also, right? You step out in the sun, you put sunscreen so that you don't get tanned. You get tanned, which is basically darkening of the skin patch. That's because UV radiation stimulate melanocyte activity. Melanocytes give rise to melanin, which is responsible for darkening of the skin patch. Okay. Now again, um, read this properly. Apositional growth leads to an increase in the diameter of the bone. In this process, new bone is added by osteoclast to the outer surface. Wrong or correct? And is it the correct explanation of the previous statement? Two. Okay. Shall we go to the answer? Maybe 10 more seconds. Yeah. Okay. One. Okay. All right. The answer is three. Okay. Statement A is correct, right? Statement B is incorrect because of classed. Remember, people, whenever you are answering, my suggestion always is that look in the words. Classed. Class is for breaking of bones or resorption. Blast is which makes the new cells or matrix, osteoblast. So answer should have been osteoblast and not osteoclast. If it was blast, one would be the correct answer. If because it's class, it's incorrect. Right? Be mindful of the words. Right. So osteoblasts are responsible bone matrix secretion, and osteoblasts are arising from osteoclast. Simply tell me if the second statement is correct or not. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, we have two different kind of answer, and that's the first. That's the correct answer. Okay, first statement is correct. We agree. Second statement is not correct. Osteoblast and osteoclast. Osteoclast and both of these we remembered. We discussed something. They are different cells. So osteoblasts come from osteoprogenitor cells, and that's why those correct matching the following the kind of questions I gave you. So all the questions are related, and later when you are revising, I'm sure they would come very handy. Okay, this is something that was very interesting and was in your syllabus, which was discussed by Professor. Stretch marks. So we will just quickly revise that part. So stretch marks result from tearing of collagen fibers in the dermis, and the epidermis contains strong elastic fiber that tear under tension. So that's why you have stretch marks. What do you think? Which one is correct? Anyone typing? Anyone has any answer for stretch marks, which are something that we know very often? You do see stretch marks in so many parts. If you lose weight, if you lose, or if you have just delivered a baby, or if you have so many other stretch marks where you have some abrasions. So, what are those stretch marks from, and why do they have stretch marks? Okay, I will. Yeah, and yeah, take a guess. One. Okay. Anyone else wants to go with any guess? One, two, three, four, anything. Or else in 5 seconds, I will give the answer. Two. Okay. The answer is three again. And I'll tell you why is it incorrect. So what does it say? It says stretch mark is resulting from tearing of collagen fibers in the dermis. Yes, that's correct. The marks are because your collagen fibers have got damaged. But it's in dermis. Second statement is epidermis, which is not correct. You don't have any such fibers in epidermis. All the fibers are in the dermis. Epidermis is basically, it contains the dead cells. Your elasticity comes from the dermis. The word is here in the statement itself. So be mindful your answers is there in the question. So it was talking about dermis, and the second statement should have been that yes, in dermis you have these elastic fibers, they get torn under attention, and that's give rise to stretch marks. Right? Yeah. Right. And the second last question, and we have just 2 slides remaining, and we'll shall end quickly. This one says interstitial growth, which we have discussed, allows cartilage to expand from within. And this type of growth occurs by chondrocytes dividing within the cartilage matrix. I think if we have discussed and I have told you, this is very simple to answer. We are basically talking about interstitial growth, and this is the first kind of growth that we have discussed. One, yes, precisely. Fantastic. So we remember, right, from interstitial means from within. So you have within cartilage. So within cartilage, you have the chondrocytes dividing. Because they are dividing, the length is increasing, right? And the last question, which is also simple, divide this based on what we discussed. So intramembranous ossification forms flat bones such as skulls and clavicle, and it involves cartilage template replaced by bone. The key terms is there. Does that key term match with the process? What was intramembranous ossification as compared to endochondral ossification? What was chondral word saying and what was intramembranous word saying? Three. Anyone else? It's the last question, and we have 3 minutes remaining. So if anyone wants to go ahead with any other suggestions, you can. No? Any response? Because this is the last question anyway, and you can all just give some. If you don't know, you can take an educated guess. Three. Anyone else? Three. Does the third person want to attempt? Okay, I will give the answer so as to relieve people and can stay behind for others. Right, remember intramembranous, which is basically from the membrane where you have the mesenchymal cell directly giving rise to the bone. Cartilage intermediate step is in the previous one, endochondral. So that's why this is incorrect, right? Yes. So that's the end to today's session. You will be having the recording. I will be uploading it in my drive, so you can, or it is in the YouTube, so you can access and it will be available there. And yes, these classes are longer because we are meant to take 2 hour session. So yeah, no pressure. You can always go back and check the YouTube videos. And yeah, if you have any doubt, please let me know, or else we can stop here and see each other in the next session. And like always, my this chat box is ready for your suggestions. You could post suggestions in the YouTube video also, or anywhere you want to contact me. Otherwise, we see each other next week. Thank you very much.